I really hate the whole like clutching of the pearls that's been going on for the last couple days, as far as like, Amy Schumer saying she's gonna need a month off because she's traumatized by what she saw, and Judd Apatow coming out and saying that Will Smith could have killed Chris Rock with a slap, and like all of these other things that people have just been like, they're just acting like they've just never seen. And I feel like it's really a two America situation in a way, because like growing up, man, I can't count the amount of times I saw somebody say something off the cuff or a little over the line and get popped for it.
Mm.
Like that shit was just Tuesday. Like I don't like, especially like in school, like like it just happened all the time. Like
Let me put you on game.
before we get to our usual topics, we have to talk about the topic that has literally set the world on fire. Everyone has discussed it. So as people within the media space, we are nearly obligated to discuss it. But it's a little bit outside of our purview, but we're going to give our best. Well, let's get into the slap heard around the world. Let's talk about, if you've been living under a rock, Will Smith strolled up to Chris Rock and slapped him at the Academy Awards after Chris Rock told a G.I. Jane joke about Will's wife, Jada. And there has been a lot of different discussions surrounding the topic itself. It is one of the most shocking moments in television history, to be honest. But how are you feeling about it overall, man? Before I get into how I feel about it, how do you feel about the slap? Do you feel like either Chris or Will was out of line?
Nah, I would say that feel like I think Chris was definitely within his purview to poke fun and to make fun. And I'm seeing all these posts now about how like Will Smith, literally in an interview, years ago, I think on Arsenio Hall, said, "Oh, you can't take a joke." He was making fun of somebody who had a bald head. How the internet is able to scratch together these clips, it just amazes me. But somebody remembered that clip and they clipped it and threw it on Instagram. And so it's funny how it comes back full circle, that he couldn't take a joke and he got in his feelings. Definitely a fight or flight moment for Chris getting slapped like that, because I don't know how I would have reacted either. And at the end of the day, I think obviously Will was wrong. And I think that I just hope that there isn't like a lasting effect on comedians in them having to be afraid of pushing the envelope and poking fun at things to fear violence, because I feel like comedians should be protected, because I think they do a really good job of like talking truth to power in some ways and making fun of people. So I'm just hoping that that everybody gets their take in and we can move on, because in a lot of ways it's also a huge distraction to a lot of other world events that are going on. And
Very
it's
true.
just
Yeah, very
and it's
true.
just been spoken about ad nauseum. So I'm ready to move on. I don't know about you.
I'm not. I have watched that clip no less than like 4 dozen times.
Oh my goodness.
It's still like funny as shit. Like, what is it? 6 days after it happened. I don't know. I'm very much in the middle. I see I see Chris Rock, for who he is as a comedian, and I understand his motivation behind making that joke. I don't think he necessarily knew that Jada had alopecia. Like, I don't think that was within his scope of knowledge. Because I don't think he would have made that joke on that stage if he would have known that information. I think he just thought it was a haircut choice. That's my personal opinion. I mean, we'll see what Chris Rock has to say about it a couple months from now. But for Will, like, I don't know. I really hate the whole like clutching of the pearls that's been going on for the last couple days, as far as like, Amy Schumer saying she's gonna need a month off because she's traumatized by what she saw, and Judd Apatow coming out and saying that Will Smith could have killed Chris Rock with a slap, and like all of these other things that people have just been like, they're just acting like they've just never seen. And I feel like it's really a two America situation in a way, because like growing up, man, I can't count the amount of times I saw somebody say something off the cuff or a little over the line and get popped for it.
Mm.
Like that shit was just Tuesday. Like I don't especially like in school, like, or like it just happened all the time. Like you have to be aware that if you say something, like if you're in school and you're joking back and forth with someone about their hairline or their clothes or whatever their appearance, and then you bring their mom into it, like there has to be a preparation for what the repercussions for saying something like that could be. So it's like, yes, Will was wrong for slapping him on national television, but like, I think if you're Chris Rock, I think you also have to entertain the possibility that if I say this thing, there's like a multitude of different options that could possibly happen after this. And getting slapped is one of those options. So it's like, I don't necessarily agree with Will in the way that he did it, but like, I don't know, man. You can't go around saying stuff like that about someone's significant other and then expect them to respond in that, like in a cordial way or in a publicly acceptable way. Because if you think about Will, there's a lot of things that have been said about him and his marriage. A lot of that self-inflicted because they almost overshare when it comes to their public persona. But like, if you consider her condition, I would consider, even though they're in an open marriage, I would think that they're in a loving marriage. And if you're in a loving marriage, like if your wife is dealing with something like alopecia, you're seeing her like, get out of the shower with, clumps of hair in her hand, and you're watching her cry about it and wondering if she's still beautiful, or because, there's so much worth attached to women's hair. And Chris Rock, if anyone, as the author of the Good Hair documentary would know, there's a lot that goes into that, especially in a marriage and in a woman's hair. So if he's seeing all of this and her dealing with it, and then someone's joking about it publicly after all of the jokes that they've had to take over the last, 2 years, entanglements included, it's a lot for him to deal with. So it's a more complex situation than like, oh, someone got, quote unquote assaulted, and, just, minimizing it to that. But I guess it's a mixed bag, but I don't think there's any right or wrong per se.
I understand what you're saying in that regard. I think that there is a clear right and wrong, but I think that, like all human things, it's complicated. And I think that there's a lot to be learned from this kind of situation. But what's kind of been what's been enjoyable about the situation is all the memes, all the jokes, the skits that people put on, either making a Denzel impression and what he was saying to Will in the shadows. I saw someone on World Star about that, or people like saying what Chris Rock was doing backstage, or what the sequel going to be, or just like that. Just the memes have just been hilarious, and I've enjoyed that portion of it a lot. The thing that I haven't been as thrilled with is the think pieces, the articles, the stuff that kind of brings up race, and like, oh, what if it was a white comedian? What if it was a white dude that, step up and slap Chris Rock? And how?
What if it was Betty White? I saw that.
Yeah. I'm like,
like, what?
Like who? Like, different people, different circumstances. I think that if it was, I think part of what allowed maybe Will to have just that extra level of confidence to do what he did definitely came from the fact that it was Chris Rock, someone that he knew, and likely someone that he could get away with doing it to. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like, if someone looks a little different, you might think twice. But at the end of the day, all that is irrelevant. He did what he did to who he did, and that's what matters. And I don't think you really have to like discuss it to the nth degree and break it down in all these different ways. And I think that our mental energy can be put towards some better stuff, but I understand the fascination, and I have enjoyed it as well. So I can't judge others. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you, bro. Like I just feel like there's just you got to ask yourself a question, especially like if you're a man. Like, are you gonna let someone like talk crazy about your wife in front of you? And that may not be the result of that. May not be a slap, but it's like there has to be some kind of repercussions for. Like if from Will's end, not necessarily Chris's end, where you're talking about like how would you react in that situation? And for me, it's just like you at least gonna get a stern talking to, and I'm gonna have to ask you what exactly you meant by what you said. And if I like your answer or not, it may dictate what my response is. But I don't know. I think people need to look a little bit more into Will's side and see like what could have possibly motivated him to do that and what his thought process might have been, rather than just the abject disappointment and the calls for him to like lose his entire career over this. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I think that's a stretch far in terms of losing his entire career over this. But to me, set and setting, if you're at the Oscars, the point of comedians at the Oscars is to bring humility to the people winning the awards, because the Oscars can look like a huge circle jerk of the Hollywood elite. You know what I mean? And so if you kind of bring everybody's ego down a little bit, poke fun of people in different ways and stuff like that, I feel like it kind of helps bring some levity to the situation, and makes the people in the crowd appear a little less pretentious, because everybody can get roasted and nobody is above reproach. And I think that it's the same goes for comedy. If you go to a comedy show and you happen to be in front of a guy like Andrew Schultz, who does a lot of crowd work, and he cracks a joke about your wife or about you or something like that, you go there knowing that it's possible that you're going to be made fun of. And I think that in our society, it's like we've engineered it in a way to kind of tamp down our violent tendencies and look to words as a way of speaking truth and a way of, poking fun and poking the bear a bit. And we want to protect those who kind of say things, because yes, words have power, but they shouldn't have the power to make you commit an act of violence. And I think that's kind of the line in the sand that I draw. So definitely a stern talking to, definitely some words, maybe after the show, whatever. But I think you just got to let it roll. You know what I mean? Like, unless somebody is, I think that there's definite, like, if he made like some kind of wild threat to Chris, to Jada, then I could have seen like Will slapping the shit out of him. But, but he just made a joke, like
I don't know. I can't. I think it goes both ways, because if you're let's say you're Andrew Schultz and you're making a joke about someone's wife, like for the person in the crowd, like, yeah, you do have to be aware that situation could happen to you. You could get roasted, or someone close to you could get roasted. But if you're Andrew Schultz and you're willing to step out there and make that joke, like, you got to be also ready to understand that, like, just because you're on stage with a microphone, like, it doesn't give you a shield to say whatever you want to say. And I just don't think that, like, I think we operate in a space right now where comedians get this, like, they get this shield of like, I'm just telling jokes and this is my job. So like, there's no repercussions for what I can say because it's just jokes. When in reality, like, that's not the case. Like, whether you want to talk about like Dave Chappelle and the kind of like transphobe adjacent stuff that happens, like, yeah, it's just jokes. But at the end of the day, like, there's people at the end of those jokes. So it's like, it's not necessarily always appropriate for you to make those jokes and not expect that there's going to be repercussions for it. That's all I'm saying. Like,
hey, yeah,
it's like keep the same energy. If you off the stage, like, don't say anything with a microphone and a platform that you would not say to that person to their face. You know what I'm saying? Like, we do it on this podcast. We criticize players. We talk about people and we say certain things about them. But like, I would never insult a player because I would never say that to their face. You know what I'm saying? But I could tell somebody like, oh yeah, your field goal percentage is a little bit low. but it's not necessarily.
I don't know, bro. I gotta agree. I gotta disagree, because I think repercussions are good to have, and you cannot escape repercussions. But I think the type of repercussion should be part and parcel to the offense in some degree. So I think a joke that is received in poor taste should be met with a conversation so that there can be some acknowledgement of that, not violence, because like people be talking with a lot of energy. Because
is it really violence though? Is it
yes,
really,
it is violence. Yes, that's violence.
Really that violent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
I don't know what the inside of Chris Rock's cheek looked like, but I think it was bubbling up. You know what I mean? Or at least, the pride or whatever, trauma that inflicted on him to like just kind of be like embarrassed like that on national TV. But I look at rap lyrics, like I look at the stuff, people are out here saying fuck 12 in front of police, and that could get you, beat with a baton. And we know that that's not right. But if you carry that same narrative energy from your song, that's an art form, to real life, that it can be translated in an aggressive form. And all I'm saying is that there are repercussions, but we have to be careful of what kind of repercussions we think are acceptable. You know what I mean? Because it's a slippery slope. Once we start to excuse violence for certain stuff, it's hard to uncork that bottle, to recork that bottle, I would say.
I hear you. I just don't see a slap as like an act of like violence. I get technically it is. I get technically it's an assault, but I just don't. For me, it's just a slap. It's just a slap to me. But I mean, I guess we have to agree to disagree. I'm a little bit more on the violent side, I suppose. But yeah, I guess let us know what you think about the slap. If you thought that if it was in any way justified, or if Will was a little bit off his rocker.
Yeah,
But
you know,
I think we can go ahead.
I was gonna say that you know, a TikToker gets slapped on making a video and nobody bats an eye, but Chris Rock gets smacked by Will Smith on the Oscars and everybody loses their minds. So yeah.
I mean, I think we disagree about the nature of if it was violent or not, or if it was necessary. But I think we both can agree that that shit is hilarious. so I don't know what that says about us, but I mean, I guess we'll see how it develops. But either way, I mean, they're both going to be a lot richer because of it. Chris Rock's tour is going to sell out wherever he goes, and his next Netflix is calling him up right now to hear what he has to say on whatever special he wants. So it's going to be it's going to be a saga. This is not the end of it by any means. We're going to be talking about this from a year now in some form or fashion, because there's going to be that. There's going to be a red table talk. We're going to cry. There's going to be a lot to talk about. But I guess that's enough of the slap for now. We had to address it because I really wish it happened like Saturday night, so we could have talked about it. But you know, we're a little late. But I figured we had to get to it, you know, at some point.